not going to give, they don't have to give their time to EFC, but they realize like EFC actually
built them
and helped them get through.
And it's not enough athletes can say that, and that's EFC level, and then even UFC level. You'll have people that leave that don't give credit to the organization that built them. I mean, a funny example is Paige Van Zandt, who will say that she made more money and had more followers or whatever after doing Dancing with the Stars. It's like, girl, how do you think you got Dancing with the Stars? How did you get your OnlyFans page? Like, nobody knew who you were. You just be another big pretty girl on OnlyFans. It's because of UFC. So you can say what you want about UFC. In this smaller scale here, like, none of these guys would be anything if they didn't have the belt that they got from EFC and that EFC didn't push them the way they did. And a lot of guys are talking smack about EFC at the moment, but at the end of the day, there's nothing else. There's no UAE Warriors, there's no Brave, there's no Ares until you've done something in EFC. Otherwise, how do guys know who you are? You know? So yeah.
Have you seen that Darren Till MMA organization that started? Do you know about it?
No, not Darren Till.
Darren Till started an MMA organization with Jacob Zuma's son or something like that.
Yes, I saw an article about or something where Dricus was like, he didn't ask permission to come to my
but
I didn't look into it. That's crazy. Is that here?
Yeah, it's here. I don't know if it's professional or amateur, but
why?
I just saw a picture of Darren Till after, I think it was after Dricus loss, and he was standing with Zuma's son, and then he was like, we starting our own guerrilla fight thing or something like that.
But why? Why here? That's so random.
They must have offered him a boatload of cash to do it, probably.
But why him?
That's a good question. Why him? Especially after he lost to a South African, and they have their own MMA promotion versus. I know they do amateurs in versus, but I mean, like, come on. But anyways, whatever.
Very interesting.
Tell me about the bare knuckle, please, because we spoke about it briefly at the Ignite launch, but what's the full story behind that?
It's exciting. So the bare knuckle thing kind of came up. I did like a Ask Me Anything on Instagram, and on 2 separate occasions I had people that I don't know where they came from. I don't know if they were following me, and they were like, would you ever consider bare knuckle boxing? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't think I would. And then I started chatting to the one matchmaker from, I started chatting to a scout from BKFC and the matchmaker at BYB at the same time. And they're putting so much effort into building up a female roster at the moment. The money is great. And for me, I think what better way to be motivated to work on my striking
then not want to get sliced up in a bare knuckle fight.
So the thing is, I am too old to get a professional boxing license in South Africa.
I don't know, there was an age limit.
There's like a 35 or something like that is the cutoff.
Okay.
So interesting, you can go fight MMA, but you can't. Like, MMA's is 40. After 40, they don't want to give you a license, but boxing is 35.
Is it a first time license? So you get a license once off and you can keep it.
You get a license. I think you have to renew annually. And then after a certain age, they'll make you go for a brain scan if you've been boxing for a while.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't get a pro boxing license, and
that's crazy.
And so it made it even easier when I'm going like, I'd like to work on my striking as a grappler. It was very clear in the last fight that if I had more striking, like maybe I could have made something happen. And as much striking as you can work on in the gym, I think I don't have that traditional experience that a lot of older athletes might have, where they've come up from a kickboxing or Muay Thai or boxing background and transitioned into MMA. I just did Jits for a bit, and not even hugely competitively, and then fell into MMA. So with grappling and wrestling really being my foundation. So yeah, now we're doing bare knuckle. And it's exciting. The guys at BYB so far, I haven't obviously fought for them yet, but they give me EFC vibes. Like, it seems like a small crew who really care about their fighters. I hear stories about how they're like in the ER with their fighters afterwards, like really making sure that they're good. Whereas on the flip side, I've heard different things about BKFC. And I mean, some people might be signed to them and be very happy. I made a choice of wanting to go with an organization that just firstly offered me better money, but then also just came across like they really cared about building me up and about, making something happen. So I've signed a 4-fight deal with them, but it's not exclusive. So it is exclusive from a bare knuckle perspective, but I can continue to fight MMA.
Okay.
And that was the big differentiator as well, is that other organizations will want to make sure that they've got you exclusively. Whereas it's funny, it's like, I feel like my last 5 years have been feeling like I'm constantly cheating on something. So too much MMA, I feel like I'm cheating on grappling. Right now, I feel like I'm cheating on MMA with boxing, because literally for the last 2 months, I haven't grappled. I haven't stepped my foot on a jits mat except to teach a class. And yeah, I do feel quite guilty about that. But it's been great to see my boxing improve. You know, you're preparing for, like you said, getting sliced in the face potentially.
Or hopefully not, but yeah.
Look, I think, and this is the other thing about bare knuckle, is that compared to MMA, and again, I'm going to reference my last fight a lot, because that's the first time that I took any damage in a fight ever. And I took a ton of damage in that fight. So all my other fights, I'd come out with just like a little bruise on the leg or something like that. And the thing with MMA is it's so unpredictable. You can fight a fight that ends in 30 seconds. You can fight a fight that goes the distance. You can come out with not a scratch on you, or you can come out completely mangled. You start the fight with a little bit of an understanding of what your opponent is going to bring to the table. But if you're fighting an international, I mean, with Alice, we thought she was a wrestler. Everything we saw online was about her wrestling acumen, and then she was introduced as a Muay Thai specialist. So it's unpredictable. You actually never know what the person's going to bring to the table, and that's part of the excitement. Bare knuckle. You're going to stand in front of somebody. You're both going to throw hands. You're probably going to get cut up because you're not wearing any gloves. So you can prepare for that. Okay, I'm going to get punched in the face. I'm going to get cut. Cool. Now I know what I'm dealing with. So as brutal as it sounds, it's actually pretty predictable, and
you can prepare for it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like a little, like, I think with most people fighting, probably, and maybe you experienced this the first time, is like, and I know John Jones said this about Francis Ngannou fight as well. Is like, I have the fear of getting knocked out, like knocked out badly. But once I get over that fear, fighting Francis Ngannou, it can happen. It's like whatever. Once you get over that fear, you can just go and focus on what you have to do. So I guess once you get over the fear of, or know that you're going to get punched in the face, like you say, probably get cut up. It's like, well, okay, it's probably going to happen, so let's prepare for it. Yeah.
So I think if the bare knuckle offer had come pre my fight with Alice, I would have laughed it off. But I think taking the damage that I took, it's like nothing bothers me now, because I've seen that. I never got damaged. I was never damaged ever in any fight before that. Took a couple of knocks to the face, but then one severe elbow, and my entire face blew up like a crazy person for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but then it healed, and now you can barely see the scar. So I think it's going to be a lot less hardcore than an elbow to the face. And that's the other thing about, if you're comparing bare knuckle to MMA, is that when you're getting hit with elbows and knees, which are way more brutal than a bare knuckle punch, it doesn't hurt me. I mean, very rarely do I hear somebody tell me that like their elbow is so sore from elbowing somebody in the face. If your elbow is sore from elbowing somebody in the face, like, you should see the other guy,
Yeah.
But when I'm hitting you with a bare knuckle fist, it's going to hurt me too. So either I'm going to break my hand, I'm going to be, less encouraged to hit you as hard the next time. Anyway, it's interesting. It's going to be I just want to have cool stories to tell my grandkids one day. So
how you prepare for that though? Because like with boxing, you got the boxing gloves, you got wraps, all that kind of stuff. I think I did ask you this, we kind of briefly touched on it, but are you just literally going bare knuckle when you're training, or are you going to just like try to take as little damage as possible in training and then go for it?
It's interesting. I've chatted to a couple of bare knuckle fighters, and some of them are like, absolutely do not, like, only wear gloves, don't mess your hands up. This idea of conditioning your hands is bullshit. And then on the flip side, I've spoken to Melanie Shah. She's signed with BKFC, and she just recently fought for a title and lost. We chat on Instagram sometimes. She's cool, and she spars bare knuckle. Like, she's got a couple of BKFC fighters in her stable, and they go at each other, which I think is wild. So I think because it's a newish sport, look, I think brawling bare knuckle is as old as the Bible, but it's a newish sport, and I think everyone's going to kind of find their best practice. Currently, what's working for us is, I think coming from the MMA background, I prefer to hit pads with MMA gloves anyway. I'll generally spar with boxing gloves because I'm sparring mostly traditional boxers who want to wear at least 10-ounce gloves. Every now and again, I'll get to spar somebody with MMA gloves, and we can kind of get a bare knuckle adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
And then once a week I'll hit pads, bare knuckle. So everything else is getting done padded. And then once a week just to, it's weird how even the difference from like a 6-ounce MMA glove to bare knuckle. So it seems thin, but even that small difference from a spatial awareness perspective, it throws you off completely. So I think it's important to do some bare knuckle training, but obviously it's a fine line between conditioning your knuckles and breaking your hand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or hurting the other person if you ever were to spar bare knuckle. That sounds crazy.
Listen, we're a pretty hardcore gym, but clearly we're not hardcore enough because no one's interested in that.
Jeez, like it. And just in reference, because I don't think I've ever actually spoken to you about the last fight. Like, what are your takeaways from the last fight? Like, what did you learn from that whole experience? Or firstly, what did you make of the whole fight? I mean, I know you said you were expecting a grappler, but she ended up, being more of a striker than you thought.
From the first punch that she landed on me, I was like, holy like this is...
Did you feel strong? Or?
Very strong. So I've said this on my podcast, but we've got this like saying that Mike has used in the gym a couple of times where he's like, no one's going to hit you as hard as Dom. No one's going to be as fast as Annie, blah, blah, blah. So we've got really good sparring partners, female sparring partners in the gym. Which a lot of gyms don't get access to. They often only have to go with guys, and we've got some solid women in the gym. So it's been preparing for fights has been nice because of that. And the minute I got hit, I was like, they've lied. This is the hardest I've ever been hit my whole life. So I think a lot of people like to say that, it was that elbow at the end that cut me up, and and that if that didn't happen, the fight would have continued, and it would. I was soldiering through it, but like I was rocked multiple times. So the minute that first shot or two landed, I was like, holy, this is hectic. Obviously shot for a takedown. I don't think I got the takedown. I've actually only watched the fight twice. So memories are a bit hazy. I do remember that. So I think the wildest part was when that elbow landed. My eye sockets filled up with blood.
Oh wow!
So I just remember this like warm, thick. Blood is thick.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had that much blood anywhere before. So it was just this pool of blood in my eye sockets. I couldn't see shit.
Did you think you were sweating, or what did you?
No, I knew it was.
Could you see the red?
I didn't know whose blood it was.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know why I didn't know that because I hadn't landed anything at that point.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking like, oh, whose blood is that? And then it was just like cement in my eyes, warm, thick, couldn't see. It was black. My eyes went black, and I was like, oh, cool. So now I'm grappling blind. This is wild.
Yeah.
And it's weird because in a fight, I don't know, maybe normal people don't have this, but when I fight, time kind of slows down, and I have these long monologues with myself in my head, and then like my thoughts
mid-fight.
So as my eyes filled up with blood and I kind of went blind, it took me back to a grappling session that one of our old jiu-jitsu coaches made us do, where he actually made us close our eyes and grapple with each other. And he was like, you don't need to see, you need to feel, kind of thing. So I was like, cool, that's what Brandon said I must do. Okay, cool. I don't need to see, I need to feel. But now this isn't grappling. Like,
you got punches. you can't feel punches in the space in between you.
So there is one moment that I remember, and I've watched that part of the clip back, where I'm literally trying to kind of re-tackle her here, but she's already there because she'd moved from where she was. Instinctively, at some point in the fight, I grabbed for an armbar, which when Alice and I chatted afterwards, she was like, yeah, it was nearly on.
I remember that as well. I was cheering at that moment. Yeah, I remember.
Mike still shouted, break it. But everything was so slippery. There was just blood everywhere. It was, it was wild. It was wild.
Did you learn a lot about yourself? Because I know, like, from what we, like, when we were watching the fight, my wife and I, we could see you wanted to continue. Like, I'm assuming that's the first time you've been taken to that point.
Yeah.
And was there something that you'd been like, I can actually like push through this kind of thing?
It didn't.
Or was it not registering at that time?
It didn't even register to me that like I had an option to not want to go. Like that's just, I think, who I am as a person. It wasn't like I needed to. I remember thinking, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is not how this fight was supposed to go. I remember having those thoughts and being like, this is not cool. But there was no point where
it's like, I need to quit.
Look, the plan, we knew what we were up against in terms of an experienced opponent. I was a massive underdog, and I think in hindsight, if you ask me what I've learned, I think I've learned to advocate for myself and my growth better. that was the only fight that was put in front of me time and time again. That's all Graham offered. Like, this was the only option. And I think my maybe ego, like I never want to be seen as a coward or somebody that won't accept anything that's put in front of me. I've never said no to a fight, blah, blah, blah. So I was just like, cool, we'll do it. If that's the fight, that's the fight. But I think what I've learned now, and certainly walking into another organization, is to advocate for that you're not cowarding away from something. Like somebody that's had 2 professional fights actually has no business fighting for a title against somebody that's had more than 15, 20 professional fights. Like it was a cool risk, and I'm glad I did it. But if you ask me what I've learned, I think learning a little bit more about advocating for like growth first, if that makes sense. But having said that, we knew that she was going to come out strong. We knew that from a cardio perspective, she was cutting a lot of weight. I mean, she was teeny tiny at the weigh-in. Like she was super drawn out. She was shorter than me, which is wild because she's substantially taller. So I've actually learned since then that there are fat pads in your feet.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
This is a new thing. So apparently, like that can make you substantially shorter when you're super dehydrated. Like I remember looking down at her, thinking like, how did she get so short?
Yeah.
And the next day she was huge. I lost my train of thought of where I was going. Oh, right. So the plan was always take her into the to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, and that's where. So she was like she was panting all over the show. Like she was exhausted at the end of the first round. So had I had a second round, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. But
you live and learn, eh? And the did. Because I couldn't see in the actual fight, was it did the doctor stop it?
Yes.
Or did Mike make the decision to...
So the doctor came in, they decided between them. I don't know. I was waiting to be... So the cut man at EFC is particularly... That one cut man is particularly poorly trained. So there was no adrenaline. There was no... He put a towel on my face. Like he basically suffocated me with a towel and told me not to blow my nose. Everyone was telling me not to blow my nose. I'm like, guys, my nose is not broken. Like I'm not going to blow my nose, but my nose is not broken. Like just stop the blood. There wasn't even an attempt to stop the blood. Now I don't know much about, I've never been cut, so that was my first time. But from watching, there's usually some pretty good cutmen that can kind of try.
You get the Vaseline and they like put
So obviously the blood couldn't stop because nobody actually tried to stop it. And based on that, the doctor was like, listen, we can't stop the blood. It's running into your eyes. I mean, I was completely blind in that after the cut. So decision was made. That's it. And it sucked. It sucked to have something so big with such a big build-up to end because of that. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like had a hope in that round. Did I have a hope in the fight? Sure. If they could stop the cut, I would have shot for a takedown like as the bell rang, and maybe something could have changed. Maybe I would have had a minute before the cut opened again and I could have done something. But you're gonna make yourself crazy if you try and replay that in your mind.
You can't go back in time. But I mean, like again, like it wasn't you trying to quit or do anything like that. It was all heart as well. I mean, you were ready to go. That's why I was wondering who was it, the doctor, or did Mike say no? Okay, let's stop it. Because you look. I mean, you were still ready to go for round 2.
I was ready to go, and I think it seems like because. I don't know. I want to say that it seems like because I'm a female that was so surprising to people, which was interesting. Like I felt, for me, it was just it's who I am, right? So I think, I don't know. There are a lot of fighters in the EFC that have zero heart, and like
especially recently. Oh goodness, some of your fighters have come up against people, and let me rather not talk about it because I'm not a fighter. I hate being the person that's like armchair critic and saying you shouldn't tap to strikes.
No, you shouldn't tap.
But if you're a professional fighter, I feel like you've put yourself in that position.
No, get knocked out. Go out on your sword, 100%.
Yeah,
and that's how I feel. Like the way my fight ended, I would have rather been knocked out or choked out. But like to go out like that is just like, and I wouldn't have been. Maybe if I was Alice, I'd be proud in terms of such a severe cut, but it's not the way anybody wants the fight to go. Like you want to win clearly, not just because I didn't come out in you know what I mean. I don't know, but yeah, tapping to strikes it's not a thing. Shouldn't be a thing.
No, if you put yourself in that position, then yeah. But I didn't say that. I'm not. And now going forward now, when is the fight that you're doing for the bare knuckle now?
So it was meant, I had a visa thing. It was meant to be like October, and then the visa didn't come through. And then it was meant to be January. And then they struggled to find an opponent. So now it looks like it's going to be Feb, 11th of Feb, which is Super Bowl weekend. Apparently it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's massive.
Apparently, see, American
culture.
I
don't watch it, but I know it's big.
Yeah, so the matchmaker said it's a big weekend. So Jan would have been in Miami. I've never been to the States, so that made me quite excited. February will be in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is like the opposite of Miami.
Like I don't know the States either, but I know Mississippi compared to Miami because my friend lives in Miami. And yeah, it's a complete different world, Mississippi.
Yeah,
what I've seen.
Yeah.
You know? But then again, it could be like people talking about Africa thinking there's lions in the street.
So I'll let you know.
Yeah, later. Yeah, we'll see.
But I still don't have an official opponent. They've put a couple of names forward, but nobody that seems to have bitten yet, or that it's nothing confirmed. But I've been training for a while, so we were hoping to do another MMA fight, EFC in November, and then who I wanted didn't say yes again.
Is that the girl that called you out from for the grappling?
Which I thought was quite interesting. So
what's the story there? Because I saw, I think you posted on your story or you made a post or whatever it is, and you said, yeah, you've ducked me from MMA, now you want to go into a grappling match.
So Nicole, we don't have real beef, I don't think. I don't know, she's a sweetheart in person, but I did a post when I was struggling to find before the fight with Alice was confirmed. She had just signed with EFC, and I was like, cool, let's go, this is amazing. So when we were amateurs at the same time, she was always fighting a flyweight, I was fighting a strawweight, but she'd come into EFC as a strawweight. And so I did like a very cute post calling her out, but it was more like a let's fight, not a like I'm going to kill you.
Good sports, yeah.
And both her and her coach JP were like, at that stage, it doesn't make sense for someone making their pro debut to fight a number one contender. This is before I knew I was a number one contender. So I don't know if JP and Graham had a conversation, but I didn't know I was going to get a title opportunity. And I also didn't think that I was that high, like more highly ranked than her. She had way more amateur fights than I had. It made sense for me. Anyway, so that didn't happen then, fought Alice. And then now in November, we were chatting with Graham and
Cairo.
No, the other matchmaker, Ashley Colbert.
Ashley. There
and
we go, yes.
We'd given a couple of names of like ladies from Africa maybe that could come down, just not wanting to make a massive big international fight, and there was nobody locally. And then her name was thrown around a couple of times, and they were like, cool, that would be a great fight, let's see if we can make it happen. And we got a no again. So that was to fight in November. And then this recent ACE championship thing was quite interesting how it came around. So Demart actually contacted me and asked if I'd fight Monique in a super fight for that belt. But because I'm planning this or preparing for this bare knuckle boxing, I've literally, like I said, I've stopped all grappling. So taking a grappling comp now just doesn't make sense. And that Monique fight, like that's been
Sub Kings.
It's been on the cards for a while. And I messaged her a while ago saying, girl, I don't know when this is going to happen. I'm focusing on MMA now. I don't know, like grappling comps just don't fire me up in the same way. It'll be, the way I see it is like, and this is no offense to anyone that loves jiu-jitsu. Don't get me wrong. I love jiu-jitsu. But from a competitive perspective, I feel like jits will always be there for me. It can be an old man sport. It's harder, but it can be. So I feel it'll always be there for me. Whereas competitively fighting from an MMA perspective or even from a bare knuckle boxing perspective, it's still a young person's sport. Like my time is ticking.
Yeah.
I'm an old lady. So I feel like if I have to make decisions to kind of see where and I've got 2 children and a business, like I'm not a superhero. There's only so much time in one day, you know?
You can't put your focus in,
I feel like for me to start seeing success, I need to really focus on one thing at a time. So I had said to Monique, like, you're going to have to wait a while because this is where my priorities lie like right now. So then Monique was scheduled to fight Nicole. And then I see Monique pulled out. I'm not sure what the reasons were. And then they put Cara in a game. That was like a trilogy for them or something like that. Yeah, and then she called me out saying, I'm ready to fight. Let's go. And I'm like, we're not grappling.
It's not a fight. It's a grappling match.
It's a grappling match, girl. Like, we're not going to do a grappling comp anytime soon. Like, I know you're in a cage with a belt around your waist, but that wasn't an MMA fight. Dude, I would even do combat jiu-jitsu. Like, worst case. Like,
yeah. I actually think, you know what? I think of all the sports, like I know Joe Rogan says Muay Thai will be the next big one after MMA, but if they want to make jiu-jitsu a big thing, I think combat jiu-jitsu will be of like between normal jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu, people will much rather watch, like the general public will watch combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool though, because it's just open hand slaps.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that'd be a fun one.
So there hasn't
maybe you can find a compromise, like somewhere between
the
two.
There haven't been any ladies that have done combat yet, I don't think.
I haven't seen any. No. I think only Sub Kings does it in South Africa that I've seen.
I don't think there's been any ladies.
I haven't seen one, yeah.
So that'll be cool. And like I said, Jits is my first love. It's not that I'm slating it or anything, but
you can always come back to it at a later stage.
I've got to be realistic about, Anyway, so she calls me out and I replied, because that's what one's supposed to do when you get a call out. But she is reveling in her win. Good for her. She hasn't acknowledged it. But the thing is, like, if you want to fight, then let's fight MMA. We're not going to snuggle and cuddle on the mat right now.
Yeah, make it a real fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this Ace, can you compete like wherever you want? Like, I know you can do the bare knuckle with, even though you're fighting in EFC, can you go do like even if it's a combat jiu-jitsu, can you go do that with Ace?
So with BYB, I just can't do any bare knuckle. So no bare knuckle MMA, no bare knuckle Muay Thai.
Would you want to do bare knuckle MMA though?
To be honest, no. Only because I think it's a cop-out. Look at me talking about being a purist. But like, I think bare knuckle MMA, and look, Gamebred is doing like really good shows, and they've got some big ex-UFC fighters that are making a name for themselves in that space. But you have all the weapons. Why would you want to use your bare fists? So you can elbow somebody, you can knee somebody, you can choke them. Like, why would you want to break your hand if you don't have to? So I think if I'm using my bare knuckle and you choosing to elbow me, like,
it doesn't really,
right? So I think the only place that it makes sense, because they're doing a lot of bare knuckle Muay Thai now as well. And I think the only place that it really makes sense is in the boxing space, because we're both forced to use our bare hands. It's not like...
It's the only tool you have, and then there's gloves on usually now. There's no gloves. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just silly.
Yeah.
You're just pretending it's hardcore when it's not actually.
That's actually very true. Okay, how'd you come to think of it? So you've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 weapons: your knees, your feet, your elbows, your hands.
Yeah.
And 3 of them are like already dangerous. So now you're adding like a 4th dangerous one, but it's probably the least dangerous of the 4. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, and this for the BYB, I watched a bit of BK, like of the BKFC. Are the rules like the same? So you start in the center, like squaring up, or do you start on opposite sides of the?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay,
actually, I should probably find that out.
Yeah, probably.
So, listen. At the end of the day,
hey, that's probably okay. Maybe I mean that's the last like thing you need to worry about. I guess.
I think you started. So BYB is supposedly the smallest combat arena in the world. So it's called the Mighty Trigon. It's a triangular ring. So the whole point of it is that, check me with my Illuminati sign here. The whole point is that it's got these 3 90-degree angles in each. So wherever you go, I actually don't know the exact size of the trigon. I'm trying to say trigon with a straight face.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it's supposedly small so that it forces action. When you get into a corner, like you're in the corner, like it's difficult to get out of the corner. So they're wanting that dirty boxing. They're wanting that up close and personal. You're not running away. It's not pretty boxing. So BKFC is a circle. Yeah,
it's a circle or a hexagon, isn't it? Not a hexagon. That is a circle.
I think it's a circle on a square platform.
Yeah.
And then BKB, which is the next big one in the UK. BKB, that's just a square like a normal, and there's very similar boxing rules. So it's 2-minute rounds. I think BYB has 3-minute rounds for the guys and 2-minute rounds for females. I might be wrong. BKFC is 2 minutes for everyone, and you can hit in the clinch. So as long as if I single collar tie you or whatever, I'm holding you, as long as I'm hitting, I can stay there.
Okay.
Unlike boxing, you can't clinch and hit. At the minute the action stops from a striking perspective, then they separate you. So that's where I feel like it's MMA adjacent. Is that a lot of the dirty boxing, a lot of the up close stuff that I've really enjoyed doing, you can still do. So now the interesting thing is, sparring with gloves on, sparring with traditional boxers who you can't do that with, and then not doing it, then finding other ways to kind of dirty box that are, boxing legal. So it's been interesting to play with gloves on and gloves off, so to speak, or MMA gloves versus boxing gloves, and different people's styles of boxing.
But then also with the style, like if you were to box, you can maybe like stay behind a jab a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like pure boxing. But then we saw like when what is his name? He's the goat of MMA. Artem Lobov. It's a joke that he's the goat, but but he boxed, did a bare knuckle one against Paulie Malignaggi, who's like a legit boxer, and Paulie Malignaggi was trying to hide behind his jab and it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
So do you like, what is this change in style that you have to have besides like doing the dirty boxing stuff? Is it less volume? Is it more trying to power punch? Or?
I think it's we're working on more volume. So, and I can't speak for. Like, I'm the first, right? So it's not like we've got a stable of bare knuckle boxers from PFA, and I will be the first female South African to fight bare knuckle
ever. Yeah.
So yeah, we're figuring this out as we go. For my style personally, up until now, my striking has been to set up takedowns. So I haven't been a volume puncher at all. It's been ones and twos, duck under a hand, their strike, so you can shoot for a takedown. Now we're looking at like, that's not enough. That's not enough to score points. It's not enough to knock somebody out, to damage. So we're working on a lot of volume. And then I think just assuming that I'm going to be the shortest fighter, because that's just been the story of my life. So I'm always looking to get on the inside. Having said that, watching some of the ladies fight in BYB so far, there's a traditional boxer. She's a 5 or 6 pro fights. She's fighting for a title now, strawweight. And she fought a chick that came down from, I think I want to say featherweight, down to straw, like a massive drop, and she's huge from a height perspective.
Jeez,
and this girl had no ability to keep her away. So I think footwork and head movement is going to get you on the inside, and then obviously you want to stay there once you. And I think my biggest goal is to not get punched in the face and shoot for a takedown.
Oh yeah.
Because that's just my natural
to fight the urge to want to do that. Yeah,
that's my natural disposition, right? It's like, oh, this isn't nice, let me shoot for a takedown. So far so good. I haven't shot for any takedowns in sparring yet, but maybe I'm not getting hit like hard enough. I don't know.
I just hope that you don't. Yeah. And tell me a little bit, we spoke a little bit about the podcast off air. You did a podcast before, like a different podcast before, I think, right?
I've been playing in and out of radio for like 15 years. So I studied journalism long ago, pre my fight days, and then worked in various radio stations. I worked at Voice of the Cape. I worked at Hashtag Radio, Two Oceans Vibe, Magic 828. What am I missing? Missing something. And so radio has been always my first kind of passion from a media perspective. And then I briefly started my own little podcast about pre-COVID, which was really just a monologue of me doing motivational stuff. It gets a little boring talking to yourself after a while. So that didn't...
It's nice to have a guest always to go back and forth. It's so much better. So much better.
So that didn't last long. And I actually read something about how like 90% of podcasts don't make it past like the 6th episode or something like that. So well done.
I can believe it. No, I can really believe it. Yeah.
So well done on still being here. And then, myself and Anton, who's my co-host, we have a really cool chats. Like we have a lot in common. We both come from like a yoga background and a fight background. We've both been in the media space. So whenever we were chatting in the gym, it was just like conversation was just so cool. And then I was like, hey, do you want to start a podcast with
People
me?
should hear this. Yeah.
This is good stuff.
Yeah. It
right?
always seems to start like that. Yeah.
And so, it was cool. We started a podcast. We did 7 episodes, so we lasted past the 6th. But what we've decided to do is do seasons. So Anton is very busy at work in the media space and, can't always take a lot on. I've got fights coming up. So we've decided to kind of batch record stuff, do a season of like 7 or 8 episodes, take a production break, start again. And I think that's going to work best for us is have seasons. So season 2 is going to be filmed in the beginning of January.
Nice.
And then we're hoping to launch after that with it. And I think the kind of route that it's wanting to go is that it's not just the like fight space. Like we're really wanting to speak about wellness and yoga, talking to high performance athletes that have made it in different industries. So we'll leave the pure fight stuff to you because you're doing a good job.
Listen, thank you very much. No, but you guys are also doing a good job. I mean, like I think I was chatting to Graham about just MMA in general in South Africa, and I think there's space for both of us, man. It's
100%.
like
It's
people are so quick to be like, "Oh, you guys have got a podcast that's similar to ours. Now we must be competition." And like,
no, there's
enough for each other to support each other. And when you got like, if you all support each other, as it grows, like it grows the whole thing, and everyone grows with it. Yeah.
No, I think it speaks to the fact that combat sports is growing in this country in a massive way, and growing in Africa in a massive way. So we were chatting off air about gyms, and also like 5-6 years ago, if a gym opened across the road from you, it'd be like, gang signing each other and like have to fight for territory and stuff. And that came from a place of, I think, believing that there was scarcity. And I think when you operate from a place of scarcity, things remain scarce. But if you're operating from a place of abundance and really truly wanting everybody to kind of be successful around you, people find their tribe. In the podcast space, you can listen to more than one podcast, but from a gym perspective, you can't appeal to everyone. So the guys that are meant to be across the road are meant to be across the road, and the ones that are meant to be with you are meant to be with you, and that's just
and everyone's got different personalities. Like people buy into the personality of the person, but also there's like different questions that people ask. You've got different insights to what I might have. Same thing with like a gym thing. Like people will click with, like some people will click with like a drill sergeant type coach, and other people will be like, I need to be babied into learning stuff. So there's definitely different personalities, different people, and once one grows, everybody else grows. So
no, exactly. I think if we look at just the growth of the sport in the last 5-6 years, it's exponential. Obviously, your likes of your Camerons and your Dricus that are really making an international name. That just helps. That's just like puts us on the map, and now suddenly we're not just like nobodies from where the lions roam in the streets, but we actually have something to offer. So it's been cool to kind of be part of this and seeing there's guys going to do things for the first time, and then the next come and the next come, and suddenly we're a country to be recognized for the space.
Your gyms particularly, there's a couple of like fighters that are gonna, I mean, not to single anybody out, but like Tumelo as an example, that whole 125-pound division EFC, I think all of the people that are like the champions are Gift, Tumelo hopefully is next in line, and then even Terrence. Like I think those three, and then there's about 3 or 4 people in that division that are going to be in the UFC, I feel, in the future.
100%. I mean, I'm a little biased.
But specifically to you, I think Tumelo for sure. I mean, not just like, I'm not just saying that because like obviously his ability, obviously he trains hard, but like his mindset and his work ethic, I think he's a good kid as well. I say kid, but he's a good kid as well. He doesn't ever complain. He's always friendly. Like his work ethic, like I've seen him train a little bit as well. Like that's just as important as the ability.
No, he's incredible to watch. He's a soldier, like you said. He shows up, he does his work. You don't hear him complain about like being tired or the hard day that he had. Like he shows up with a good attitude in training, and he's always keen to help. He's a team player. And his BMT is on another level. Like he shows up for fights, and he's like looks ice cold. Like you know what I mean? Poker face is
Nothing
great.
flusters him. It seems
Nothing
like
flusters him.
It was like even before the last fight that Tumelo had, I was like, when I had him on the podcast, it's like surely next year fighting Gift Walker, because you guys are both, I think it's Tumelo 4 or 5-0
He's 5-0 now.
So he was 4-0 then, yes. And I was like 4-0, 4-0, do it. But it just so happened that I think Terrence was also 4-0, so they went that direction. But then, if these things maybe like with Dricus, it ends up working itself out. If it's undeniable, it's...
He made us all stress, Dricus, because I was like, how? Like, how did you have this perfect like ascent to the title, and then that's it? Like we just
overnight,
just gone, just like we're gonna take it away from him, just like that. So I was like, just imagine. I mean, I didn't chat to him to see like how he was really doing, but just imagine getting like there, like to the brink of like a title fight, and then it's just like, no, now you must go to the back of the line again. It was crazy.
But he kept it such a good, like he kept it so well. I'm sure he knew when it was that Ignite launch, because that was like 2 days before the announcement. He must have known, because he was like, no guys, nothing's happening this year. It's Feb maybe. We don't know what's happening. And then like 2 days later, but I was so ecstatic, because I thought it was going to be a situation like with like Tony Ferguson back in the day. This long okay, Tony Ferguson had a longer win streak, but for some reason if Dana makes a decision, it seems like it's like he sticks with it.
Just
and
stubbornness.
if he's got an opinion of you that seems to never go away.
Yeah.
Even John Jones, he had an opinion of John Jones and GSP and those guys not wanting to fight, and that stuck for years. And then it just so happened that GSP wanted to come fight Bisping, and Bisping was keen for it, so they made the fight, and then GSP ducked again anyway. Respectfully. You know, but and John Jones, they didn't have any other heavyweights really, because Stipe was out for a while, so then he was like they had to go with it. But yeah, I hope Graham and them make the right call in March.
I'm excited for. I think I'm more excited for the Strickland and Dricus fight, to be honest. Like, it's something that I had said before.
What then versus Izzy?
Yeah, I mean, I get why everyone wants to see the Izzy fight. Like, you know, he's supposedly the greatest, and there was all the smack talk, and it was like, you know, who truly is the king of Africa, all that crap. Like, I guess it sells great. But I don't know. Like, I like Strickland. I've always liked him. Like, there's something about him that I like that he's real.
Yeah, and he doesn't care what he says.
And Dricus is pretty real too. So I think, like, it's just two good real guys having a brawl, which I think will make for an entertaining fight. Yeah, I think
it'll be closer now, I think, with Strickland having that confidence of beating Izzy.
Sure.
I just would have liked the Izzy fight because for no other reason that Dricus would be able to, or would be the first person to beat Whittaker and Izzy. I mean, he still has that chance.
Sure, it's still, I mean, if Izzy actually isn't retiring, which, you know, Mike called.
Yeah, I know, he messaged me. I actually want to pull up the messages, just like I'll show you afterwards.
Like, I'm the oracle of MMA.
Mystic Mike. Yeah, I laugh, because he predicted something else as well when we had him on the talk show, and then I was like, oh, Mystic Mike. And since then he's like been predicting stuff, and it's just like Mystic Mike. But I don't think he's done. I don't think Izzy, I mean, surely not. I think maybe he comes back to have one more fight. I don't think he'll fight Pereira at light heavyweight. I think Pereira's just, that's his boogeyman. Like, he's I mean,
he's done that. I don't think that's
done. And at light heavyweight, Pereira's huge as well. So
I think Dricus is the new boogeyman, to be honest. So we'll have to see.
I know we're biased and everything, but I don't see anybody like beating him yet, like in that like even the top 8, because like the person maybe actually, strange enough, I think Jared Cannonier might have the best chance to beat him, just because Jared Cannonier is also a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And Jared Cannonier, okay, so I see it going to like more of like a grappling exchange. And their styles in the grappling are like, they're both very dominant in grappling, and it will come down to like that, like who's just faster when it matters, which I think Dricus will be, but there is a chance that Cannonier could be.
I think you raise a good point. For me, he didn't even register. I think he's kind of like a I
mean, he's injured now, so it's not going to happen, but yeah.
But he's like a dark horse, so you don't always like think. But I think for the longest time I was thinking Chimaev's the boogeyman of that division, and anybody must be like shit scared. But he's also shown that he's kind of just human as well. And
he's small, I feel, for middleweight. You know, and anytime I don't know how you've like, I feel like anytime he's faced a challenge, which has been 2 ranked welterweights, he struggled.
Yeah.
I mean, credit, he came through both of them.
But he didn't, it wasn't a complete like annihilation.
It wasn't like Holland.
Any faults. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I'm excited. I think MMA in South Africa is just getting started. So the Dricus story has been a fun one to watch unfold. And I think there's some good things going to come still. So
cool. Most definitely. Hopefully, then also looking further on goes to light heavyweight as well. That'll be a double champion.
I think he'll enjoy going to listen to my small chat with him though. The weight cut stuff is like when he speaks about having to get down to welterweight, and he was like, it was horrible. So yeah, maybe he'll enjoy a little light heavy fun.
Yeah, that would be much better. Get to eat and not have to cut any weight, because I didn't realize how big he was.
He's huge.
He's huge, in person. So to get to 85, I don't know how he does it.
No, he cuts a lot. I mean, it's all safe stuff in their realm. I could never cut that kind of weight. I mean, I understand that it's like guys are just built differently, the amount of muscle mass that they have, the amount of water in your muscle, etc. But I mean, I've never cut more than 5 kg. So to think about guys that are cutting like 10, 15 kilograms to you. Even in our gym, there's some wild stories about some of the guys and how much weight they used to cut. We now have really changed that. So we are, I think possibly because a lot of our guys are smaller, like Tommy's a flyweight, so he's also less muscle mass, blah, 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 cutting maybe less weight than, if we had, I don't know, a bunch of welterweights in the gym.
How much did Jelson cut? Because he's also over 100, isn't he, when he...
No, not quite 100. he
95.
He walks around like 95, yeah. And now he didn't really cut much because he fought upper division. It's his legs. Like his legs are huge.
Yeah,
Like,
they
he's a
are.
short guy, so
Yeah.
he's got some. I think we're built quite similarly at the moment. Where I've got big ass legs, but I'm a little person, so it's like I can't fight at flyweight. Like Mishka's a flyweight, and she's huge from a height perspective. So yeah, it's difficult when you bottom heavy and you've got all this muscle and little arms.
You were saying I cut you off there. You were saying you guys have changed a lot with the way that you do the weight cuts.
I think in the years of Don and Saxon, those kind of early EFC days, the guys were cutting 10, 12, 15 kilograms within a week. So 5-week vibes. Whereas now we're doing guys are doing 5-6 kgs, not even
in fight week.
Yeah, in fight week, the whole week. And then water weight is like 3 kgs, 2 kgs. So we've kind of moved. I think I did a lot of research in the hydration space with a sponsor that I used to have, and really realized things like water loading and how you just can't make that back. So the amount of water that you're taking out when you are obviously water loading and then taking that water away, and you're just dehydrating yourself for a full week. So I think looking at optimal hydration, it's about how quickly can you put back in what you've taken out. And if you've been taking out water for a week, no ways you're going to be able to put a week's worth of water and electrolytes back overnight or back within 12 hours or whatever it is, without the use of drips and all the things that you're not supposed to do. So it's about what's the shortest amount of time that you can take this water out, and then obviously get it in a safe amount of time that your body can absorb it. I think too many athletes are cutting too much and getting on this getting off the scale and back into the cage
too quick,
too depleted. You think you're fine because the scale says you've put the weight back on, but has your body been able to absorb the nutrients that you actually need in order to perform?
Because I've always wondered, because like I think I said this to you, but I've said it to a lot of fighters. Like I used to do bodybuilding, and we used to also do water drops.
I didn't know that.
And then didn't you? Oh, okay, yeah. So that's how I also know about the feet pad thing. Because when you do a show, the last 2 weeks you do feel it in your feet, but like on the actual day of the show, you just lie there. Okay, for a couple of reasons you lie there, but your feet are always elevated. Okay, it hurts to walk. Like I've felt it myself as well.
It hurts to walk.
It hurts to walk.
Wow.
Because you do have a little fat pad and you got water and stuff, so that you remember, it's like you're peaking for one day. Yeah. You're trying to have as low body fat as possible and as little water as possible as well. So then like that I do a water load. Well, sometimes you don't have to. Like sometimes your water's so high, but it's all the same thing. You're dehydrated essentially on that last day.
So when you guys stand on the scale on the stage, not the scale, are you dehydrated at that point?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So it depends. Like it depends on a lot of things. Like if you already good to go, like a couple of days before, you got to gauge, because like really in that last week is the only time, or the last week or two is when it's like really like you got to be precise, because a little bit too much water, or like because you don't want to transport sodium. So what you're trying to do is you deplete the muscle of its water, because it's mostly water, and you try to put water back and carbs into the muscle. And
just before you get on stage.
Yeah,
right?
like so in the days leading up, or just before. It depends. Like what some people do the night before. It depends. Like I had to have a weight limit, so I had to cut quite a lot.
Okay.
That's half of the reason why I did the water drop. So I would do like 8 kilograms in the last 5 days, water loading and then dropping. But then you don't want it to obviously spill over. So you want it to go into the muscle, and then the perfect balance is then so like the muscle's depleted, you fill it up. And then if you fill it up too much, then it spills over like a glass, basically.
I don't know what that means.
So if you
what happens if it spills over?
So basically, if you got this bottle, then you deplete it, and then you fill it back up. So this is the muscle. So now you want to fill the muscle back up. So that's when you do, like, you put a little bit of water in and carbs and stuff like that. And then what they call spilling over is like if you have too much. Yeah. So if you were to, like, for example, go binge and drink like 6 liters of water or whatever it is, and go eat a whole bunch of junk, that will all go in, fair enough, but then it can spill over.
Okay, so
then that goes under the skin. So you got subcutaneous water. Yes, exactly. Or hard. Smooth or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got the water in the muscle, and you got the water, subcutaneous water.
Got you.
Yeah. So you're trying to get the muscle, the water out of the under the skin.
Yeah.
and then you're trying to put it
Keep
into
it
the
into the
muscle.
muscle.
Yeah.
Got you.
But what I was getting at is I am buggered. Like the last, I mean, first of all, when you're cutting carbs, you are buggered anyway. But then you cut water. Like on that day, you're just like, you can't wait like to just drink something and eat something. So I could not imagine fighting like that.
Yeah,
ever.
well, I mean, you don't, obviously, in the sense that you are supposed to hydrate and replenish yourself. But at amateur level, you are weighing in and fighting on the same day.
Yeah.
And that for me was wild. So when I did nationals as an amateur, not only do you have to weigh in and fight on the same day, but they didn't even give us an allowance of weight, which is just wild. So if you're not fighting for a title as a pro, you get like a 2-pound allowance or whatever. They were like, no, on the dot. So I was fighting at 52 kgs, which actually, like, if you're fighting at straw weight is 115, so divided by 2.2, it's actually 52.2. So there should have been a 0.2 allowance just based on math, not on an allowance. But anyway, they were like, no, 52 on the dot. So then you don't want to be over. So I ended up weighing in at 51.7.
Sure.
And nationals is like, it's a 3-day comp, and if you win, you have to make weight the next day.
No way.
Which, I mean, I got a bye, so I fought on this Sunday only in the finals, and I lost, so I didn't have to make weight. But my training partner Anisha, she was the least experienced MMA fighter, so they made a fight on the Friday, so she had to make weight in on Friday morning. She fought, she won, then she had to make weight the Saturday, and then she went through the finals. And she had to make weight on the Sunday.
3 days in a row.
3 days in a row, making weight and fighting on the same day. It was wild for me just doing it once because of the cut. And then, so we didn't do a water cut, but you're fasting, you're doing things without the sauna and the sweating. So we dieted down.
Do you take any water in though? So you're not doing a water drop?
But you're fasting.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay. So sorry. When I think fasting, I always think of food, but so both food and
at that
liquid.
stage, it had gotten to like, you're not going to eat until you make the weight.
Yeah.
So I did like a 24-hour fast. I had been doing like, I don't know, at that stage I thought that being a keto athlete was the right thing to do. So I was quite low carb already. I look back at like body composition at weighing pictures and I'm like, shame. But I felt good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you have like 2 hours or something to replenish before you fight. It would be the same as like a jits comp. So they're trying to prevent you from cutting, but the reality is, even with jits comps, the guys are still cutting. But there's no way that if you've cut like 3-4 kgs, even that little amount of kgs, there's no way that you can put that back in your body in such a short space of time. So we were making these like crazy smoothie concoctions, obviously, in that, everything that you learn about weight loss is like liquid calories is bad. When you got to get in as much as you can as quickly as possible, then it's like the banana date smoothies, coconut water, like put it all in. Wild.
What do you like in a normal? Do you just get a lot of electrolytes in when you do like a normal rehydration?
Yeah.
A lot of carbohydrates, or how does it? What is the?
Yeah, so you want a good combo of electrolytes, so magnesium, potassium, sodium, and the sodium is obviously it's the mechanism, what the water is going to bind to, so to speak. So if you're just drinking straight water, it's just going to go straight through you and it's going to flush whatever you've got left. So that together with some carbs. We spoke about this in the last podcast we did, but I'm an animal-based athlete, so there's certain things that I don't eat that other fighters would eat. So generally, from a carb perspective, I've kind of gone through the process, and I eat a lot of fruit for carbs, fruit and honey, but then there's certain starchy foods that work for me and some that don't. So I'm okay with potatoes, sweet potatoes. That's kind of the route that I go. A little bit of rice here and there, but my stomach doesn't love it. I've watched some crazy things post weigh-ins. I mean, these are guys that have been fasting for like 2 days and have taken like 5-6 kgs of water out, and they're putting in coffee and a Monster Energy and like.
It's probably because they feel so freaking depleted.
Yeah, but
they probably can't stay awake.
How is that the right thing to do?
No, it's not optimal at all. No way.
Your body has got nothing in it, and it's going to suck the nutrients out of anything that you put inside your body. I mean, so one fighter who recently was in our camp and then left and is still fighting in EFC, I think he might be one of the guys that tapped 2 strikes recently.
I think I know exactly. I don't know the story, but I haven't. You can tell me later.
He was eating Simba chips post weigh-in. Like that was his and I get like
Simba chips.
Fighting, like you don't make a lot of money, so maybe like it was a financial thing, and that's all that whatever. But there's salt in chips, but that's about the only benefit that eating a bag of simba chips.
And a little bit of oil, maybe, just to like.
There's other ways, bro. There's got to be other ways. So I think, unfortunately, so optimal hydration and optimal nutrition are two things that I feel very passionate about, especially from a performance perspective. And I don't think there's enough education going around for fighters, whether that's the fighter's responsibility or the coach's responsibility or the organization you're fighting for's responsibility. I mean, you can argue it in so many ways. I think we're a developing country, so as an athlete, there is a lot of access to information sometimes comes at a cost that not everybody has. But I think a lot needs to be done there. There's a lot of athletes walking around clueless.
You talk about chips. That was actually the main thing people used to eat backstage, chips and gummies.
So chips because of the salt? Or
that's the theory behind it, but I've heard it doesn't do anything because they say because of the salt, it was salt and vinegar chips.
Okay.
So I don't know, the vinegar, they think the vinegar will do something, maybe just dry them out a little bit more. I mean,
there's going to be high sodium in a bag of chips for sure. So any processed food is going to be quite high in sodium. So actually the theory is that as you start to eat more whole foods, whether you go keto or you just start cleaning up your diet and not eating box food, standard American diet, as they call it, you naturally take in less sodium because all the processed foods got so much sodium in it. So that's why then the need arises for your sodium-rich electrolyte drinks because you need to be able to put that back inside. So like I think it's probably has some kind of effectiveness, but there's definitely a more nutrient dense way to do it.
Yeah, I think also the thing is though is if you're not one thing that a lot of these like, so you get gym bro science, and then you get like there's actually people that are very scientific with their approach to things. They treat it like a proper sport, even though I don't think bodybuilding is a sport. It's like it's a pageant in my opinion, honestly. But I'm
glad you said it because I think people would be upset if I said it.
No, but it really is. What's the sport aspect? There's no sport aspect. Like you can say gym is the sport aspect, but your lifts don't matter. So it's a pageant basically.
This is what I was told. I was told that your lifts don't matter in the sense that your weight doesn't matter. It's just about getting the reps in.
Yeah, so there's a guy called Larry Wheels. I don't know if the name means anything to you. So he was a power lifter. I mean, stupid weight. Like he's not a Thor, Thor Bjornsson who's like a Viking that's like overweight, or like Eddie Hall that's like a lot of weight behind him. He's actually like a fairly lean guy, but he's just freakishly strong.
Okay.
And he was saying recently, so he's made the switch from powerlifting to bodybuilding. He's been like quite muscular and everything. And he was saying basically he could incline bench press 600 pounds. So off the top of my head, what is that? 45 times 6, so so 270. So 270 or something like that. A shit load of weight, whatever. Yeah, more than any of us will ever do. And he was doing that for reps sometimes. Like he was like repping it out, and he never had, like he basically didn't have a chest at the top because it was just about getting the weight up. And then he said when he switched now, he's doing less weight, but it's probably still a stupid amount of weight. He's like really trying to focus to squeeze. Yeah. Okay. So it's literally
that mind muscle connection.
Exactly. It's literally how you look.
Yeah.
Like no one gives a shit if you get up there and you go, listen, I curl or I bench press 300 kilograms or I bench press 50 kilograms. Like they literally just care about how you look. That's why I say it's a pageant.
Yeah.
You know, it's judged. There's nothing you can do on the day. Like, and I always laugh when bodybuilders have this like fighter talk ahead of time. They're like, on the day I'm gonna do this and this and this. It's like, dude,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's been done.
It's not a fight or a sport where like, that's why I say it's not a sport as well, because on the day, like, Ireland could be the number 1 ranked rugby team in the world. Okay, and they lose to New Zealand, who was ranked number 5th on the day, because on the day New Zealand wanted it more.
Yeah.
Or like you might go into a fight where maybe you're the underdog and it's like Strickland, biggest underdog ever. But on the day it was like, you know what, today I'm not losing today. Today's the day. You can't do that in bodybuilding because your genetics, you skipped a meal here, whatever it is, you know.
So it's not about the performance on the stage.
Yeah, it is, I guess. I mean,
listen, I've never watched one show in my whole life, so
so basically,
so I have no idea.
So how it works is like, okay, in the men's stuff, because in the women's divisions, you've got like I forget what it's called, but you got to do like jumps and like push-ups, one-arm push-ups and stuff. So they judge your routine that way. They do judge your routine in the men's bodybuilding, but I don't think it really counts anymore. Like they used to give you a score for like the presentation part. So you would like literally be like a whole show.
Okay.
Like you would literally try to wow the crowd. Like people did backflips on stage and that kind of thing.
So that I can get behind.
Yeah, like that's a bit entertaining at least, you know. Now it's literally just like you stand in a line, you come on, you do your poses. So there's mandatory poses, and then they're like, okay, they note down like that guy looks good, or if they don't know the guy, then they might put him at the bottom. And then you do. I'm trying to think of the order. Then you come out a random order, so 6 at a time, and then they like compare you to the others, and they're like, okay, that guy still looks good. Then they call you out top 6. They compare them with each other.
Lineup.
It's a lineup,
like
a straight lineup, and then you literally do. They go, okay, first pose, front relaxed, and then you got to stand there like play your lats out. Then they go, okay, turn to the side, turn to the side, turn to the side.
So the one thing I'm giving credit for is that mind muscle connection, or that pose they do. I can't do that. Like I've tried.
It's hard.
I've tried
really,
it doesn't flex like that. So I'll give them that. Like there's people. So there's 1 or 2 people in like that I know that are in that space, but I've never actually watched a show. But they'll tell me like, yeah, I'm going to my posing coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, really, it's like so. One thing that's also hard about that is the cardio. Like it's no, seriously, I promise you, if you want to try one thing, okay. Go look at the mandatory poses for whatever division.
You do cardio and the posing.
Yes, I kid you not.
Okay.
Just imagine like you got to flex like, and you got to flex every muscle in your whole body.
So it's like an intense isometric
for 20-30 minutes.
Okay.
Like you'd think, posing. No, you just go there and you flex or whatever. No, it's like you've got to. So like how I'm sitting now, I'm slouching a little bit or whatever. Like you picture that you've got to sit here. You got to suck your stomach in. You got to flare this out, like you got to sit like this the whole time. You can't, and then while you're trying to breathe as well. Remember, you're depleted, you're dehydrated. You're trying to breathe at the same time, but you can't because if your stomach like distends a little bit, then they're like, oh no, but that guy's fat, or like now the new thing is like, no, that guy's on GH, because the people they inject it straight into their stomach. It's not a secret, and people like on bodybuilding channels.
You're allowed to be on things.
Technically, no. It's supposed to be tested, but people that are professionals will openly talk about their usage.
Yeah.
So that's why they're trying to.
Like it's a sport just to see how much gear you can take. To be honest.
But that's why people love it, because they're like, you know what? Everybody knows that these guys are on stuff.
Yeah.
Like the top professionals. I mean, I grew up watching Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler. They're like thinking that they take muscle tech supplements and stuff, but really, like, come on. So in that aspect, people are like, well, you know what? It's like the peak of where people can go, and I kind of wish sports had like a division where for the people that want to do it, they would do it. You know, Jiu-Jitsu already kind of does it, but but look, it's for all of that. Like people always talk about, like they always look at bodybuilders or people that built one, like they're taking whatever, they're doing this, but those guys and girls diet like crazy. Like the self-control to be able to do that is mad. And
don't you think we should, even in our sports, it would be cool, like you said, if there was a natural division and a not natural division. Like test me, I'm Maddie, cool, test me, and I pass all my tests, and I know like I'm 100% going up against somebody else who's not on anything. Obviously there's always ways to jibbo it, but like then if the guys that want to take stuff, let them all take stuff, and then they can play with each other.
I guarantee you the juice division will still have more views. People would probably more, because you see the problem is, and this is why I think people don't do it in normal sports, is like once you've seen someone run an 8-second 100, you don't want to go back to watching people running 9.6, 9.8 or whatever. You know, there's the purist aspect. Like people don't want to, like some people don't want to use anything, and people will watch it. I think there'll always be people to watch it. But again, if you like look at TRT Vitor, remember Vitor Belfort when he was like look at Overeem when he was on his stuff. Like, do you want to really watch Overeem now when he's like all skinny and stuff?
But so then we should all be on stuff.
You should have the option. I think you should have the option, and I think what they should do is they should have that division.
I think as long as the playing fields are level, I'm for it. So you
shouldn't go in and be like, well, I'm in a natural division and I'm fighting, especially fighting somebody that's on something. Like, no, you shouldn't. Yeah. They shouldn't allow that. And then
they don't.
No, technically they don't, but but I mean, like if you have a juice division, I know how we got into this topic, juice division, and you have a national division. If you're in the national division and you're caught taking stuff, life ban.
Yeah, forever.
Like forever. Out. No 4 years, no 2 years, or whatever. But then what eventually you'll start seeing is like, and this is the thing with bodybuilding, this is where one thing where I think people have realized, like, yes, you can, like, genetics still play a part. Your work ethic still plays a part. Everything that you do outside of just...
you can't just rely on
you can't just be like, I'm going to take a drug and then I'm going to be whatever, you know. Some people will never be... Like, I'm a little bit taller, so there'll be certain things that I'll never have. Like, I will never be like a shorter, stockier person that's, I don't know, say calves or whatever, someone that has big calves. I will never have food like...
Yeah.
It's just my genetics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Both of us can never go play basketball. Our genetics don't allow it. Like, there's no chance.
I'm tall for basketball, but I get you.
No, I'm short for basketball. Like,
compared to me.
No, but I mean, you know what I mean. So like, we'll never play basketball.
Yeah.
It's not. So I think that's one thing that it would break that stigma of like, oh, well, that person just takes stuff and that's why they're there.
Yeah. Because that is the assumption now, right? Is if you are a top performer in your sport, Tiger Woods, whatever, if you are the guy at the top and then you're caught doping, was Tiger Woods, right? In golf.
I know he had LASIK. So okay, I'll get to that.
Okay, well, Lance Armstrong, whatever. Like, if you're the guy and you're at the top and you've been winning everything and everything's you're amazing, and then you're caught doping, like, it's all that stays with you is that, right? The only reason you won is because of that. But if they're all doping, then there's still going to be one dude that's going to win.
Yeah.
And that's not going to necessarily only be because he was on the better gear. Like, it's going to have other factors. And then
everybody ends up taking the same thing eventually.
Yeah. So then it's about your genetics. So we come all the way back to
work ethic,
genetics, skill, all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I mean, just on the MMA sense, like when they popped John Jones for his picograms, that was the DC fight. I think it was a DC fight. He got popped for something in the DC fight. It's like, those picograms did not make him land that head kick. And then when DC was wobbly, have the fight IQ to trip him and then be patient and then land the ground and pound. I mean, John Jones, his genetics, he's tall, he's got a great fight IQ, you know what I mean? So it's...
But it's the only thing that will stay, right? Is that you can argue it any way you want, like you'll always be the guy that
got popped for the pico, that's what with the Habib debate, they're always like, but one got popped and one didn't get popped, so... When they always talk about the GOAT debate with him, so we'll never see it in our lifetime. I think the supplement industry is way too much of a lucrative thing. I'm not advocating for it, but I mean, like, I don't think we'll.
I think just from I think people's careers will be short. I think from a health perspective, I don't think that there's, from what I know about it, I don't think that you can successfully. I mean, if you hear about how many people are just bodybuilders that die. And again, it's not a space that I know a lot about, so
no, but you're right. No, you're right.
But I don't think that there's longevity in taking a lot of. And then, of course, if you are all on it, then it's the race to see who can take the most or who can find the right concoction. Of
you become a science experiment.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's longevity in that. Certainly the little bit that I know about some of the drugs is what it does to your heart from an elevation perspective. And I don't know how anybody could do the sport that we do and have such an elevated heart rate. I get it from a bodybuilding perspective. You just have to look pretty. Yeah. But if you're already, my heart rate goes up to 180, 185 when I'm in sparring. Apparently, it's not supposed to go that high.
It's not. I'm learning that as well now. Apparently, yeah. So there's two ways that you're supposed to. There's that super high heart rate zone where it's like up and down, and then I'm gonna butcher this explanation, but there's actually chatting to a heart specialist about it, and there's the part where you also have that steady state cardio, so you need to do both apparently, because then otherwise the one side of your heart becomes weaker than the other one, or it causes issues on the one side of your heart, and then but I'm hearing also more and more now, like, you're not supposed to go above like a certain percentage, like 80%, I think.
So it's age, the way I understand it's age related, it's like 220 months your age.
That's your max.
Is your max, right? Mine is very past that when I'm sparring.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my phone to do the math now, but what's 220 minus 37? It's not 180.
That's my math not bad. It's 183.
Okay, so I'm very often sitting between 183 to 190.
Wow.
In hard sparring, MMA rounds, definitely.
I mean, I can believe it, but when you look at it compared to the max, it's like...
Yeah, well, I mean, literally my heart rate will go right off into the red, and it's like, no, you died. I was chatting to Dricus, was it in my podcast, where he wore a heart rate monitor. he speaks about bringing a heart rate monitor to the Darren Till fight or to the Whittaker fight. I can't remember.
I think it was the Darren Till fight.
And because there was this focus on wanting to bring his heart rate down.
No, sorry, it was the Whittaker fight. Sorry, it was the Whittaker fight. Yeah.
And he speaks about wanting to bring his heart rate down the whole time. He obviously only wore it going out. He didn't wear it in fights. And then I can't remember what he said his heart rate was. But then I did this strength and conditioning mentorship course with Phil Daru, and he spoke to me about how between rounds, your top UFC fighters, the ones that he was training, bring their heart rate down to 120 between rounds. So your recovery, wherever you're going, you want to be able to get right down to 120 in that, 45 seconds to a minute that you've got between rounds. So that's what I aim for between rounds, but it's definitely doesn't go down to 120.
Yeah, you're supposed to. No, I don't know what the mechanism is, because I did a stress ECG, because I believe now you're supposed to start this stuff when you're like 40, but I prefer to start it now, so I have a baseline and I've got more data going,
Yeah.
And then also I feel like we're getting sicker at a younger age now because of processed foods and like all the stuff that. Whatever, So I went and did that, and then also he was explaining to me is like one of the things that he said, like fitness wise and VO2 max wise and all that stuff, it's fine, but one thing that he said that needs to happen is like you need to within like a minute or two come back down to your resting.
No.
And I was like, yo, dude.
Yeah, but where from? Like also the thing
from that like
has
close to your max.
Has he ever done that?
I don't know. I don't know. But he's like the leading heart specialist in the country.
Yeah.
So
because the thing is, I know what I find sometimes doctors are they might be specialists, but in terms of like real world, they're not always very clever.
No, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
And so I think being able to also who's rest like your own resting heart, like mine is 35-40 when I'm fit.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm going from 35-40 at rest
to 180, and a minute later you got to do that.
It's not going to happen, bro.
Yeah, no.
Like it's not possible. So it's interesting though. It's interesting to see how your heart can fluctuate, and then finding like the right mechanisms to bring it down. Obviously through breath work and being able to calm your mind, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think a resting heart rate is achievable outside of lying in my bed, to be honest.
But one interesting thing that you might like is that he gave me like what's sort of lying in his office is like a diet guideline, and on that diet guideline it was like things that you can eat as much as you want of, things that you should avoid completely, and things that's like once a day and stuff like that. So it was like meat, chicken, biltong as much as you want.
Interesting.
It was potatoes was like once, or like avoid, I think. I'm trying to remember. Fruits actually, strange enough, was once a day. He said 1 serving per day on that list. But it was interesting because it goes against the conventional that people think of, where they're like, okay, no, but red meat's bad for your heart, and like meats are bad for your heart, and he's like saying eat as much as you want.
So then he's definitely on the new age side of things.
Yeah.
My understanding is that old medical diet approach still very much stands with most doctors in terms of low fat as much as you can, so low fat dairy, low fat meat, lean meat, so if you're chicken, stay away from red meat. Limit your fruit is also a big thing, because fruit is considered to be just as bad as your normal sugars. So yeah, it's interesting to see that somebody's seeing a different approach to that.
And as much cheese as you want, he said as well, which was quite that was the interesting thing as well, and milk and stuff. Yeah. So anyways, lastly, you got your brown belt recently, yeah?
I did. I don't think that there's anything that I've done so far that has made me feel like more of an imposter syndrome than getting my brown belt.
Did everybody say that when they get a new like purple and brown belt? Like,
no man, no, not purple. I don't know. Purple's a safe belt.
You were fine at purple, but brown's like.
Yeah, purple. I think. I was a white belt for 7 years. So when I got my blue belt, I was like, I deserve this blue belt. I'm a blue belt. Give me my blue belt. So I know a lot of people find that shift from white to blue quite tough. And then from blue to purple, like I did my time. It was 2 years. I felt like everybody around me felt like that was the right amount of time. 2019 was just a great year when I went from blue to purple. Like I won my first 2 MMA fights. I was felt like a grappling specialist. I was winning grappling comps. It was great. And then I was a purple belt for 5 years. So I feel like that was also like a substantial amount of time. Not substantial enough to make me feel like I deserved my brown, but I felt quite safe. Like you're an expert, people look to you for advice, but you're not a brown or a black belt. So like it's a very safe middle child kind of space to be, where like you get to be like the class captain, but you're still not the coach. If that makes sense. I know what you mean. You could be like, no, go ask Justin, he knows, you know. And then I think the fact that I'm not a gi person is the other element. So I think if I loved the gi and I was in the gi a lot, then getting my brown belt would feel maybe less like an imposter. I don't know, but because we still have quite a traditional approach to our grading and to our jits, I know Justin does like to, you know, have people in the gi more than what I've been able to show up for based on this MMA stuff that I do. Yeah, it's just very close to black.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends on what the train of thought is, because a lot of people go fairly fast to brown, and then they spend a lot of time at brown, like really now, like refining things and perfecting things and learning how to teach things and all that kind of stuff, and then going to black. So some people maybe would do like a stripe a year or whatever. I don't know. I mean, other people would go a bit of a longer route and then sort of perfect it towards brown, and then the refining part at the end maybe is a little bit shorter, so then maybe they'll be at brown like a shorter amount of time. So it, you know, it's close to black. It might not be. I don't know. You know, it could.
I think the way I feel is, I think where you are as a purple belt, let's say a 2-stripe purple belt, you pretty much have like quite a defined game already in terms of your jiu-jitsu game. I don't think it changes, and look, I'm sure you can find some black belt that changed a lot between purple and black to disprove this, but my theory is that I don't think it changed that much from purple to black in terms of your style. I'm always going to be a top pressure type of grinding jits approach to my stuff. I'm never going to be like a fancy leg locker guard gamer, rubber guard vibes, not my thing. I often get told that I grapple like I think I'm 100 kilograms, but I'm not. So it's very much a mic approach to my grappling. And I think that's always going to be my style. I don't think that's going to change. Sure, I might learn some leg locks, and right now when I am grappling, and certainly when I'm teaching a lot of guard stuff, because I'm trying to like not get injured in this, like dip my toe in the jits mat without getting injured from it. So I've always kind of looked at playing guard and being on your back as like the like safe approach to jiu-jitsu. You're not going to pass somebody's guard and get like, you know, take a kick to the face or whatever. So it's relatively safe. So the way I see it is, you kind of know who you are in purple belt, and then it's about refining that thing that makes you special in jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense. I think for me, I want my black belt because I own a gym and I want to be able to teach in my own gym. Not that I don't teach, I teach a lot in the gym, but one day I could be the black belt that teaches in the gym. If that's where the gym ends up, if that's the route that we end up going. And I don't think that I can be that until I can be that in the gi. So there's a lot of work that I need to do where I just haven't had the time to do it. It's not so much that I don't like the gi or I don't want the gi. I don't love the gi. But like if I had to choose,
it's a different game.
If I had to choose gi or no gi, it's always going to be no gi. But for me, it's a time thing. If I was a full-time jits athlete and I had time to show up for 2 classes a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, I would be in the gi. But when you have to make those decisions of where to be, like the gi is just the redheaded stepchild that gets thrown to the side. But I got my brown belt. It was a super cool day. It was emotional. I put my gi on once since then. The belt doesn't quite like I can't tie it. It's so stiff. But it's pretty cool. Like there's not a lot of us in the country as females. So
there's 2 in your gym.
Well, I think Bomi is very much almost a black belt. And then besides Bomi and myself, I know there's Jace Hill, obviously Peyton, but she's overseas.
She's overseas, and she's probably also black belt soon.
So there's, between black and brown, there's not a lot of, and that's the other thing that's a little bit sad, is that for a female anyway, competition in South Africa, for white and blue, there's a lot of girls to compete against. Purple belt, there's a couple of less, like I had 4 I've competed. once last year in AJP, and I had 2 matches only. And now there's like, you might do an AJP and 1 or 2 girls come out from Angola, but that's about it. Like competition gets thin. And again, I'm never going to be traveling for Jitsu comps. This doesn't get me excited. So that's quite sad to see like the end of an era from a competition perspective. But on the other side, there's a couple of girls that want to have super fights with me, so maybe there's always that.
Yeah, there'll always be there. And these days, I mean, at least from a competition point of view, like in super fights, the things blue belts are doing these days in any event, so it's crazy. So I'm sure you'll get a fight. I mean, if you wanted one, yeah.
But it's wild. Like I think jiu-jitsu is just evolving, like at a crazy pace. So like you said, the things the blue belts are doing, it's like
it's mad, eh?
Yeah.
And people accuse them of sandbagging. It's like, no, they are like, this is legit what blue belts are doing now.
Yeah, it's mad. No, I mean, I look at even what's developing in our gym, and I'm just like, wow, like there's a reason why I was a white belt for 7 years. I was. So it's really cool to see the growth and see how quickly people are. Like, people are sponges. It's cool to see women's jiu-jitsu grow the way it's growing.
Yeah, you guys are doing a good job with that as well. I said that the last time, but like now for sure you've got.
No, there's an army. There's a blue belt army.
It's grown since the last time, so yeah, looking forward to seeing what's coming. Well, Jess, thanks very much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Bye.